Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Unorthodox Vegan. This is episode 25, and today we're going to be making a vegetable mash bread. Yeah, you heard me right. Okay, let's give you a little bit of background about that. So, my wife likes to make a vegetable stock. And to make vegetable stock, you put in a bunch of vegetables, you roast them, is what she likes to do, roast them up, and then we put them all into a soup pot, put them in lots of water, and let it simmer for several hours so it gets all of the flavors coming out of the vegetables into the water, and then add a little seasoning, and that becomes your stock for soup. Great, but then what do you do with all that mass of vegetables that you had in there, carrots and leeks and onions and stuff like that? Well, typically that used to get thrown out. And I said, well, why do we throw that out? So I've tried over the years different recipes and different ways of just trying to figure out what to do with that mash or what with that leftover vegetables. And what I ended up doing is I take it into a mash, put it into a food processor, and just blitz it into a massive goo, like a brownish, greenish goo, and try to see if I can cook that up. And I've tried other various things like making like a fritter type thing, and I have some fritters in the fridge that I did. Different types of breads. I thought I'd try some bread, so I made some different types of breads. This case, I put in some olive into that and as well, and I made more of a bun-shaped bread. And today I'm going to try a different version of that. I'm going to try something a little bit different, and we'll see how that works. It's all about playing around. We got the food, don't want to waste it too much, so let's see if we can figure out ways to use it. Now, a couple of things I need to point out. I didn't really understand the leavening agents that are available to us. So today I did some research on it and trying to understand it. Of course, we all know about yeast, and yeast is it's like a fungus almost. It eats the sugar and it gives off carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide bubbles go into the bread and cause it to rise. Well, also there is baking powder and baking soda. Baking soda and baking powder are similar but different. So baking soda is a bicarbonate of soda, which is a material that bicarbonate, it's bicarbonate soda. Anyway, it releases carbon dioxide when it mixes with an acid and water. So it has to be a liquid acid like lemon juice or vinegar. It'll release carbon dioxide very quickly and create bubbles and form bubbles right away. So that's one way to use it as a rising agent. Baking powder doesn't require the acid because it's got a cream of tartar and it's got an acid in it, and it's got a little bit of a stabilizer as well. And what you have to do is you have to add some water to it, and then that starts to turn the cream of tartar into the acid, which then reacts with the bicarbonate of soda. And then it also requires a little bit of heat. So once you put it into the oven, that's when you get the real rising happening with that. So baking powder is a little bit different. It does not require acid, whereas baking soda does require the acid to activate it. Just a quick little lesson there. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take this mash, which I mentioned is just pure vegetable mash. There's a little bit of flour in there because I used it to make some of the fritters, but I'm going to be adding a lot more and turning it into a dough. So I'll be adding in flour. I'll be putting in some nutritional yeast. I want to give it a bit of a cheesy flavor to it. I'll be adding in some oregano, putting in some olives, and a little bit of smoked paprika and a little salt and pepper. And that's about it. Let's get work on it in just a moment. I've put the vegetable mash into the bowl, and I'll be adding in some flour. I'm not sure how much to put in right away, so I will just keep adding in on small amounts using a quarter cup at a time. And I'm also going to be putting in a teaspoon of baking powder. So let's get that in there. About a teaspoon of baking powder, maybe just a little bit more. There you go. I won't be putting in the baking soda, just baking powder. So getting that in there. And just mix this around. I want to make a dough, so I want to get that nice and like a nice ball forming. I could do this in a food processor, which would probably have been easier, but as I said, I wasn't sure how much to put in here, and I don't want to make too much of a mess here. So I'm not going to roll it out just yet. I want to get some nutritional yeast in there and get the spices and other goodies in there. So let's put in some nutritional yeast. And I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. I'm going to put in about half a teaspoon of salt. I like paprika, so this is smoked paprika. So I'll put in a little bit of smoked paprika. And I'm going to put in some oregano. Don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm going to be putting in some oregano. I want that nice flavor of oregano in there. I'm putting in about 2 teaspoons of oregano. And I am going to be putting in some olives, crushed olives. And these are already pre-cut up, so that makes it life a lot easier. I'm watching out for the amount of liquid that goes in there as well, so I may have to put in a little bit more flour. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's all in there. Let's get this thing mixed around a little bit. Now I can still feel that that's pretty wet just by touch. So I am going to putting in some more flour. I had a little bit of an audio problem there. I lost a microphone. In any event, I added more flour, got it to the right consistency, the dough, so make a nice loaf, and then put it into a convection oven or an air fryer oven, a toaster oven that has an air fryer component, and put it into a convection bake for 15 minutes. We'll see how it turned out. Well, switching microphones again and making sure that I've got one that works. And I've taken the bread out of the toaster oven. It's been in there for 15 minutes. Let's take a look at what it looks like right there. So that's what it looks like right now. Looking pretty good. I'm just going to let it cool down because it's just a little too hot, a little too hot to eat right now. And I want it to just cool down a little bit. Once I do that, I'll slice it and we'll see how it tastes. Back in a few minutes. Well, I have let it cool down and I'm going to do a little taste test now. So I'm just going to do a slice and taste test. Now, I'm right-handed, so apologize for this. You're going to see the other side of it. All right, so there we go. This is what it looks like inside there. You can see the olives are in there. They're nicely in there. Oh, it has a nice vegetable flavor to it, or a scent, smell to it. It's nice, very tasty. A lot of you got a lot of the olive flavor to it. It's a little chewy, but it's nice and warm, so that's probably why. It does look like it has the right texture to it, though. Oh, and it's steaming. Well, 15 minutes, potentially a little longer, but I'm a little worried that if I put it in there longer, I might burn it. But it seems to have a pretty good texture to it. It has a nice flavor to it. A little margarine, vegan butter on that would be quite delightful once it cools down. Anyway, that's it for this episode of The Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold. This is episode 25, all about vegetable mash bread. Well, what can I say? It was a made-up recipe and just trying to play around with some leftover food so it doesn't go to waste. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on my email address up here. That's vrcompanions@gmail.com. Of course, I'd love for you to follow me on my YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/@the_unorthodox_vegan/. If you have any comments, please send them my way. Until next time, my name is Sean Gold. Have a great day.